What's good, everybody? Welcome back to the All Things Basketball Podcast. I'm your host, Vic Lopez, as always. And on this episode, I want to talk about Hansen. I mean, this dude is fun to watch, and I always gravitate towards the players that have the high IQ, the vision, and the passing ability to match, right? Like, because you can have the IQ, you can have the vision, but do you possess the ability to complete the equation and make those passes? And that is exactly what Hansen is completely capable of, right? And look, he checks all these boxes. He's an orchestrator, he directs traffic, and he's completely unselfish. I mean, this dude he catches the ball, and a lot of his catch points are at the three-point line, right? Because they're trying to do these handoffs. He'll fake them, wait for someone to cut around, and then he'll find them right in the perfect time for a cut to the basket, and it's easy layups, it's open threes. Now, there is a model for Yang in Portland, and that's Arvydas Sabonis, right? One of the better passing bigs in NBA history, right? I mean, the older NBA fans will know who I'm talking about. This was a guy that was way ahead of his time. He got to the NBA already at an older age. He was not really, he wasn't really in his prime, and he was still cooking. And a lot of players, including Shaq, have talked about how awesome this guy really was. And look, Hansen has definitely the potential to be one of those next great passing bigs. And I'm going to talk about how he fits on the Portland Trailblazers using data, and obviously as many clips as I can find of Hansen in Summer League. There's not really many that I can find because it's only been 2 games, and NBA.com just doesn't provide those hyperlinks to the field goal attempts, the assists. You can't even watch them on League Pass right now. So unless you pre-record them on like YouTube TV, which is what I've been doing with all these games so I can catch them all and not miss games, you're going to miss them, and you're only going to get condensed versions on YouTube, and that's not enough for me to be able to really process information and watch a player and really assess what I think they're going to be and who they are right now. And here's some notes I have for him. He's got very good ball control. He moves with a lot of confidence. He doesn't mind contact. This guy embraces contact, loves physical play. He laughs it off. He's been in a couple little, I wouldn't call them scuffles, but like guys that like will push him after the ref just calls a foul, and it's just like he's coming down the floor and, to kind of stand in the post, and like the opposing defense is just fighting, whoever the player is, fighting with their life, throwing their entire body into this massive human being, trying to get him out of position, and that's how he draws fouls. And I talked about that in my Zach Edey video that I did before the season started, I think I did. And I was talking about how this is a guy that draws fouls because of people battling him for position, and that's a really nice advantage going into your offensive possessions, because there's going to be some ticky-tack fouls and some just unnecessary ones that these big players will draw from time to time because people just can't move them, and sometimes you're just not strong enough and you're fouling him right in the process. So that's a nice way that these big guys draw fouls, that it's an underrated form of foul drawing. So, this guy is a tough competitor, and you could just see it. He gets mad when he fouls. He gets upset when he throws the ball away. Mistakes, he's not happy with them, right? And you see a lot of players, they'll make a mistake and it's like, whatever, they jog back, no problem. This dude, you can tell he obsesses over making sure he plays the right way as often as possible. And I love that perfectionist personality in players, and that is very apparent when you're watching this guy play. Now, I like his shot mechanics. He's very fluid. Now, as you can see from the numbers here, he's 5 for 6 from the free throw line so far. That's 83.3%. He's 46.7% from the field. Most of his attempts are at the rim, of course. At the moment, he's 1 for 5 from 3, which is 20%. And, that's after 2 games. He's not afraid to shoot him, so I like that about him. If he's wide open, he'll definitely take it. And like I said, shot form actually looks good, right? And it's the same thing I kind of talked about with Zach Edey, where not an elite three-point shooter yet, but I like the mechanics, right? And you can start to see the foundation for a player, and you can kind of start to project him as, okay, he's going to be decent when he starts getting more reps and more comfort, right? 10 points, 4.5 rebounds, the 4 assists. He's got those 2 blocks per game. I think he had 1 block in one game and then 3 in the other. Offensively speaking, this dude is just a maestro, okay? Catches the ball. Most of his catching points, like I mentioned earlier, they're around the 3-point line, so they're very far away from the basket. And that's because, you're trying to do some hub stuff with him, right, at the top, where it's handoffs, people cutting off the ball, and he can just find them and throw it. I mean, he's thrown some incredible passes where it's like sideways, very creative, kind of, different looking passes, and he throws it right in stride. He throws it right in the pocket where it needs to be, and it's easy layups. Some of them are blown, right? He'll set some really strong screens where he creates a ton of separation because he's up top, and because the opposing big that's guarding him has to play in a drop coverage because he's not really shooting the lights out right now, and he is an easy lob threat, right? Like, this is a guy that you just throw it up in the air. His catch radius is just ridiculous, right? Same with Zach Edey, where in that short roll area, it's impossible to miss him. You could be the worst passer in the world, and if you get blitzed in a pick and roll, you just throw that thing up as high as you can, and he's going to catch it, right? And he's going to make the next decision after that. So playing in that drop is pretty much necessary when you're playing against him in a pick and roll. So, like, they're in this drop coverage. He sets a hard screen, and unless that on-ball defender gets around the screen, it's going to be a wide open 3 for the on-ball player, right? And they can really start to make better decisions, right? Like, they get a better look from 3. Maybe they just take advantage of it and take the shot, or they snake the pick and roll, right? And now they put that defender in jail behind them, and all of a sudden they're in this 1-on-2 little short roll scenario where you've got Yang right next to you, he's parallel to you, and you got that opposing big kind of worried about that lob or worried about that floater from the ball handler, and then all of a sudden you're playing that guessing game, right? That 1-on-2 game that we often see with Zach Edey and whoever the on-ball player is, obviously with the Memphis Grizzlies. But in this case, he creates a lot of advantages, whether it's via screening, passing, even orchestrating away from the ball. Like, I'll see him, he'll be like at the top of the 3-point line, and maybe he doesn't even have the ball, and he's like telling guys like, hey, space out, like, get out of the way. He catches a pass at the top, and he's clearing out offense from the right side to just go opposite, and then he just puts that ball down, gets to the rim. Had a couple of moments like that. So this is a guy that's very comfortable putting the ball down even from the 3-point line at his size, which is always valuable, right? Because you don't want a guy that's like, all you have to do is kind of pressure him and then he just won't dribble. He actually will put together some dribbles, and he'll use that spin move that we've seen often to get that last little gap closing move to get to the rim. I love everything about this guy offensively speaking. I got to talk about the issues on defense, and like Zach Edey, they're very similar, right? In the sense of foul-wise, he is fouling a lot. And a lot of that is because, look, he's got to adjust to the pace of the game, the speed of some of these players. 1 through 5, the players are just faster. They're more athletic. This is what the NBA is. And this isn't even NBA caliber stuff. This is Summer League, right? So a lot of these guys that are quick, and he is just stuck as a drop coverage big. Like, that is just his style, right? Like, that's just what he's got to do at this point, until he gets better at the angles and he improves his lateral quickness and, learning how to kind of play defense in a pick and roll at the NBA level, right? Because that's that next step for a lot of big men that aren't particularly quick. And this is a guy that's going to definitely struggle with that to start. I don't know where he's going to end up in terms of pick and roll coverage. Like, can you use him as a blitzer, right? Because now if he's your only rim protector, then we see what's happening in Summer League, right? Where he's in that drop, and even when he's dropping far back, when the ball handler comes around that screen and he is there kind of like playing the roller and also the guy coming down the floor, he gets blown by like pretty much every single time. And even when he has a guy at the rim in the post, they kind of get him out of position and they're getting those shots up over him, because it does look like to me he is worried about fouling and being out of position, because he has fouled a lot in the post and on drives. So like you can tell he's like struggling to figure out like, okay, do I step forward? But if I step forward, these guys are so quick, I don't have time to get out of the way before they just call another foul. Which, by the way, I have been just going crazy with, I feel like they're calling too many fouls in Summer League. Like they just are. Like I want to see a more physical Summer League, okay? The refs are blowing their whistles like crazy. And by the way, do we need challenges in Summer League? Seriously, like do we really need, like I love that they're doing the 10-minute quarters. That is awesome. But do we need to challenge in Summer League? Can we just move on? Like let's keep it a stack. Anyway, sorry to get sidetracked, but to the point about the fouls, right? Like, and I'm gonna get into the data stuff shortly after this point. So like, you know, because he doesn't move well, right? He's already kind of compensating by trying not to foul. And in that process, he's allowing baskets around the rim. So it's like, you know, you're this big guy, you got to protect the rim at least, right? So, you know, that's the part that I think it's definitely going to be magnified, right? Like it's going to be even worse at the NBA level because the NBA is just zoom, zoom, zoom. Up and down the floor, just threes, crazy athletes going at you at the rim, a lot of screens, whoever you switch on. I mean, you're potentially going to guard a big man that's going to shoot threes, right? I mean, that's the whole thing with the NBA is the 5-out offense with fast pace and high volume. So like, you know, you're going to be in these scenarios where you're in drop coverage, you're going to allow a lot of shots. If you're on ball defenders, like your teammates that are on the ball guarding that, if they can't get around those screens, those teams are going to get a lot of mid-range looks because he's in that drop. They're going to get a lot of threes. So, you know, scheming around that, you can do some peel switching stuff. Maybe you just say screw it and have them aggressively blitz and try to have them like stop a pass from occurring, right? You kind of try to get some deflections that way. I'm sure Chauncey Billups is already thinking about a million things that he could possibly do with Young. That's going to be interesting. How he fits with a Donovan Clingan, right? I don't know what they're gonna do about that, you know, because if you play those guys together, it's gonna be a pretty big problem spacing wise. So I'm not sure what exactly the idea is. You know, you guys that watch more Portland games than me, I watched a decent amount of them. I want to say I watched like 40 Portland games this year on League Pass. And look, I love Clingan, rebounding machine. I mean, this guy is such a competitor. I loved watching him play in college. I also loved watching him in Portland. This guy is, honestly, he's going to be a really good NBA player. I just wonder, like, how his fit with Young, if they plan on, you know, playing Young alongside him. You take a player so early in the draft, you can't just park him in the G League, right? I mean, this is a guy they're going to have to be playing, right? I mean, that's my assumption. I don't know. If anyone knows anything about that, let me know. Let's get to the data on Yang Hansen and how he fits in Portland. Okay, so let's go through the solutions, right? Like how he helps this team. Portland was 27th in assists. Obviously, with a guy that moves the ball the way Young does, just his passing ability, just how great of a passer this guy is, and his vision is so great. Not to mention, obviously, just by default, this guy's vision is great because he can just see over everybody. You know, he's going to help in that regard, right? Turnovers, 29th in turnovers. So these guys were almost dead last there. He is going to definitely help if he's the hub, which I've heard Chauncey Billups talk about in these Summer League interviews, using him as a hub. That's going to definitely drop those numbers, because when you have a reliable ball handler or just someone reliable that makes good decisions and doesn't take a lot of risks and just makes good passes, you're in good shape turnover wise. And here's where it gets a little deeper, right into the more advanced stuff. Points off of cuts. These guys were dead last. Okay, now what am I seeing in Summer League? Guys that are cutting, they're getting baskets because of Young and his vision, just making those passes. That is what has highlighted him all over YouTube, all over social media. Everyone is mind blown by the passing ability. This is the Chinese Jokic, etc. So clearly they were last in cutting frequency, as you can see here, and they were last in points off cuts. You play Yang, you're gonna definitely improve that. I mean, he is just immediately gonna bump these numbers, right? So that's something good that I see. 3-point percentage is something that I'm gonna argue he is gonna help. Now, how would he help in 3-point percentage if he's not this elite high volume 3-point shooter? It's not that he'll help by him shooting the ball. He is gonna help in ways that Zach Edey helps Memphis shoot the ball better. And that's those hard screens that I talked about earlier. When you set those brick wall screens, you are creating a ton of separation for an on-ball player or an off-ball player that's coming off a screen to catch and shoot a three. It's hard to shoot the ball well when a team has bad spacing, right? And this team isn't going to necessarily have good spacing. They still have to address that shooting problem. But how you become a better shooting team is you get better screens, right? Because now you're shooting less contested shots. So theoretically, you're going to get better looks on your three-pointers. So like where you're not shooting as many contested threes, you're going to get a little more space in between the time that it takes you to get your shot off because of these strong screens. So that's reason number one that I know he's going to help with that. Also, his passing ability alone, right? Like when he's in the post, he is going to draw a lot of help because a lot of teams don't really have size to match a guy like Yang, right? Like you see it with Zach Edey all the time. Teams that go undersized to try to run him out of the building, they have to overhelp when he's cutting after he sets a screen and rolls to the basket, or if he's just in the post battling for position. If he catches a pass near the rim, and I'm talking about Yang, if he catches a pass near the rim, teams are going to overhelp and collapse. He's going to kick it out. He's a great passer. We've already seen it time and time again, him making a kick out and guys having like 2 to 3 seconds of being able to shoot the ball, right? So that's going to help as well. So we're talking about a guy that has interior gravity, has the vision, sets brick wall screens, and that's how he's going to help create some extra spacing for those guys that are going to be catching and shooting threes. I definitely expect this team's three-point percentage to go up a little bit. I'm not saying that they're going to make this incredible leap, but I can already expect if he is playing a lot of minutes out there, that number could improve. But let's talk about the issues, right? Like some of the things that, you know, they could be problematic, and Yang won't necessarily help, right? So pace, right? They were 16th in pace. Pace, I think, is overrated, right? I think teams can be very successful without playing a high-pace offense. So I'll just leave it at that. But he probably won't help with that because he is a little slower-footed, right? Opponent fast break points. This is the tricky one because Yang is not exactly going to get back on defense quick, right? Like that's going to be something he's going to struggle with, right? He definitely tries. I see him just sprinting. In Summer League, it probably doesn't look as bad. On an NBA floor, it's going to be worse, right? Like you're going to see that separation a whole lot more in a real NBA game, okay? They were 28th in opponent fast break points. So, I mean, they could be just as bad with him out there on the floor. Opponent free throws attempted. This team was also sending players to the free throw line a ton. 21st right there. And with the already foul trouble that I've talked about with Yang, you know, that could prove to just continue to be a problem, right? Just naturally. Fouls, 21st, right? That goes hand in hand with that, right? Just he's going into a team that already fouls a lot, and he could potentially be another guy that just fouls a lot as well. So, you know, that could be a problem for them defensively speaking. Opponent three-pointers attempted, they were third. 35.2, as you can see on that. And look, with Yang playing that deep drop coverage, if Billups isn't going to make him like do these aggressive blitzes where he's trying to deflect passes and things like that, and he's going to rely heavily on Yang just playing in that drop coverage, they're going to allow a lot more threes. So it's going to be interesting to see that part of it. But I'm just so optimistic either way about what I've seen from him in Summer League. His comfort level, even though he has that language barrier still, he's obviously going to learn as time goes by, but you hear him, you know, with the translator on the interviews. And from what I've gathered from the things that he says, he knows what's expected of him, right? He's going to be a hub. He's going to make plays. He's looking for his team. You can see him, like I mentioned earlier, directing traffic. This is an incredibly fun player to watch, and I'm very biased when it comes to this type of player because I always gravitate to these playmaking bigs. Jokic, Sabonis, Alperen Şengün, Jonas Valanciunas, the list goes on. And I'm going to be rooting for Yang Hansen all Summer League and all season long. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. I will catch you guys on the next one.